Thanks, John Paul, and thanks, Clement, for the expertise, the technical detail you're able to go through there. Look, a lot of the sentiments, a lot of the points that Clement and Gabrielle, but particularly on the technical side and the challenges that we face across Europe in managing household hazardous waste. A lot of those technical points that Clement has made is the same from an Irish perspective, but I suppose the difference in Ireland is our densities, our volumes, and similar to Italy, the lack of hazardous waste treatment infrastructure, in particular final treatment infrastructure that we have. So look, for my presentation today, going to very briefly touch on ENVA as a business and our experience in household hazardous waste, very briefly touch on hazardous waste in general, talk you through how collection, how we process, in particularly focus on paint, the risks associated with paint, and particularly how both water-based and solvent-based paints are collected, managed, and potential for future collaboration and stuff as well. So look, ENVA is a leading provider of recycling and particular resource recovery solutions based across the UK and Ireland. As of now, we've 42 facilities, approximately 2,000 employees, and both in the Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and England. They are a mix of non-hazardous but predominantly hazardous treatment facilities that extend across oil recycling, wee recycling, battery recycling, physiochemical treatment, hazardous waste treatment, segregation, sorting, depacking, processing, whether we transform to produce materials that stay within the race regulations, or we bring materials straight back into to product status. So in Ireland alone, we've approximately 450 employees, and look, similar to the points that Clement was making, in the last 10 years especially, which I'll point to later, a lot of those employees have moved away from general operatives more so towards technicians, engineers, scientists, and project managers that are basically on the ground delivering solutions and working out solutions for new waste streams across all the hazardous waste sector, one of which includes household hazardous waste. So we've 6 EPL licensed facilities in the Republic of Ireland. On the hazardous waste side, we've solid waste processing and treatment, focusing on solid non-regs, household hazardous waste, particularly our facility in Portlaoise, and garage waste. We have large capabilities for liquid waste processing across the UK and Ireland, but in particular in Ireland, where a lot of our liquid waste treatment processing capabilities can be used as we develop new solutions around processing of hazardous waste and the residues that can be generated as a result. On top of that, then we've hazardous soils treatment. We've our own certified laboratories, specialists in bulk haz waste exports out of Ireland all over Europe, which I'll kind of flag a bit later on. And across our facilities, basically, especially considering the Irish context and the squeeze that we have on capacity and stuff, we're basically that intermediaries. A lot of the time, we're that service provider that can accept materials, source, segregate, transform, whether it be future recycling or recovery in Ireland, or export to other destinations around Europe. So look, very, very, very high level hazardous and household hazardous waste in Ireland. So at very general level, I think we're similar enough to the majority of Europe. We're generating about 5 to 7 kgs of household waste per household in Ireland. And look, especially from an ENVA perspective on what we do across our household hazardous waste collections, the majority of streams are paint, low-level solvents, adhesives, pesticides, herbicides, batteries, cleaning chemicals, some waste oils, fluorescent tubes, and the absolute myriad of contamination that can go with or can conceivably be put into packages or put into containers that may have even previously contained any of those types of materials. So collection infrastructure in Ireland is mainly across civic amenity sites, which are local authority operated, and the operation is either contained within the local authority or subbed out to third-party contractors to operate on the local authority's behalf. And whether it's directly with the local authority or through a nominated subcontractor, the majority of the time, ENVA is the partner to take away the household hazardous waste streams that are generated at the civic amenity sites, the majority of which is usually either contaminated packaging or paint waste. On top of the civic amenity site network, there's also mobile household hazardous waste collection days organised by by the local authorities. This gives people an opportunity to come and drop off household hazardous waste. Again, the majority of which is usually paint, but there's a weird and wide selection of contamination that could be included in that, which I'll get to later. Our experience in the sector is over 25 years, whether it be collecting from civic amenity sites just with our own containers, or organising, managing and marketing household hazardous waste collection days. And we also would do farm hazardous waste collection days as well, which is similar in setup, much more wide and varied in terms of the type of waste that can be produced and can be brought forward to us for collection, but similar-ish in terms of risk profile and how that material needs to be managed going forward. So based on 2023 data, look, very broadly speaking, Ireland is generating about 380,000 tonnes of hazardous waste, within which is about 190 treated within our own facilities, and the same, about 190 exported also. In terms of household waste generation, what we see ourselves, roughly about 1,200 tonnes of portable and smaller dry cell or lead acid batteries, about 3,000 tonnes of waste oil. Sometimes that figure can be skewed a bit. It can include some industrial oils as well. And likewise then for paint and solvents, very, very seasonal, very, very based on progression of the economy, but we're in and around 3,000 to 4,500 tonnes per annum. I think we're just finalising data at the moment, and the 2025 figure for ENVA will be somewhere around 3,600 to 3,800 tonnes. And then fluorescent lamps as well, mainly collected under the schemes. So look, the main challenges in managing household hazardous waste in Ireland, obviously we're quite over-reliant on export of hazardous waste for treatment. I have some data later that will show, particularly ENVA's business, we've made a lot of progress there in developing people and infrastructure, but all too often we're still reliant on export. This couples in with our domestic treatment and recovery capacity. We're operating on a basis right now where we have civic amenity site collections, and then as I said, also our household hazardous waste collection days, which are probably too infrequent and need to be expanded on, which we can look at later. Data gaps and the availability of concise, up-to-date reporting. Household hazardous waste is a stream that evolves very, very quickly, which a lot of waste operators have particularly seen with the prevalence of lithium-ion batteries and stuff, and how all that has progressed. So the need for up-to-date data is definitely a challenge in how we progress infrastructure development and treatment capacity in Ireland over the next few years. Legacy contaminated sites and emerging hazardous waste types. This, for other countries, this may not be a particular challenge for household hazardous waste. It is in Ireland, because a lot of the facilities that we use to source or treat hazardous waste are also integrated treatment facilities that take in other hazardous waste also. So as the market changes and more priority may be given to other emerging hazardous waste types, it may take away treatment capacity, it may take away expertise, and probably of most importance, it may take away focus from developing the solutions that are needed for household hazardous waste. So the other, not so much of an issue in Central Europe, where you maybe have larger dedicated facilities for particular types of hazardous waste, but particularly for Ireland, when you have integrated facilities, other priorities can take the focus that's needed to solve the future problems around household haz. Compliance and enforcement challenges are the same all over Europe. Need to align haz waste to climate and circular economy goals, especially as green procurement and green infrastructure development is coming more and more. How we align all that and still deliver a commercially attractive solution and compliant solution for customers is a challenge. Skills and training shortages, I think no one, as Clement highlighted earlier, the need for skilled people and the security in us as operators being able to invest in developing skilled people and retain them for the period of time that's needed. And last thing, probably of most importance, public awareness and poor segregation presents real challenges. So look, collection and transportation in Ireland, relatively straightforward. Not going to spend too much long here. As I've already mentioned there, civic community sites, mobile household hazardous waste collection collection days, some retail take back for batteries and WEEs, and then on occasion as well, specialist contractors going in where there's particular requirements in larger household facilities and stuff, all gives us the collection infrastructure that we need and reception and interim storage to enable us to collect household hazardous waste. So the key features of this model is it's mainly public drop-off, where primary source segregation from the generator is provided by householders who are untrained, unskilled, very little knowledge of the risk and of the control measures that need to be taken. And a lot of it is relying on local authority infrastructure or local authority personnel to implement schemes and prioritize schemes. Transport and requirements are the same as there will be across Europe. So it's ADR compliance and drivers alike, UN approved, packaging, waste collection permit, hazardous waste consignment notes, and in particular, putting all that provision in place, knowing the inherent risks that are within these streams, as I'll flag in a couple of slides' time. So operational challenges, okay, quality of the material that we accept, in particular for us in terms of commercially how we manage these projects, the often small and inconsistent volumes that we can get, whether it be at different civic amenity sites or at different household hazardous waste collection days, which can be taken in areas with far varying levels of population density and stuff. So it can be quite up and down. And as Clement pointed out earlier as well, the generation of volume can be quite seasonal and stuff as well. Because of all that, very high transport costs, management costs, personnel costs, the need for the competent operatives and drivers, and in particular, within all of that, how we manage historical waste and contamination that may be present in the streams that we're asked to manage. So just very, very briefly, I just thought it was an interesting point to put in, and apologies, the tables there are a little bit small, but the vital role that I suppose that social media and awareness and advertising plays in people being aware of events like household hazardous waste collection days is probably the main opportunity in Ireland for householders to dispose of not their standard household hazardous waste, their pesticides and stuff. And the vast majority of the awareness around those events is via social media. We know social media is cheap, but it requires regular, up-to-date content, and it really requires ownership from those who want to publicize events and stuff. But the vast majority of people that are attending household hazardous waste collection days, they're finding out about those events via social media, and in particular, they're all the vast majority are within a quite short distance away from where those collections are taking place. So almost 60% are within 10 kilometers as to where the collections are taking place. So whether by civic amenity or from hazardous waste collection days, once the material arrives at a facility for treatment and recovery, we will receive, we will sort, we will pre-treat, and we will recover as much as possible. Again, there's ever-increasing complexities around the incoming waste composition, and along with that, then the safety and the regulatory requirements about how we process and what our offtake partners, how they want material presented and how they want it composed and stuff. So all that put together, it's put more strain on treatment infrastructure, but particularly expertise, and what expertise we need to develop in our business to ensure we remain compliant in 18 to 24 months. You know what I mean? So investment is continual. In Ireland, contracts are relatively short, so it's it makes it more difficult for us as operators to go and invest in higher end process plant and equipment that maybe have better offtake, more secure offtake. But it's just a challenge that will look to remain in the process. So look, as a result of the investments, as a result of the innovations that we've made in the last 10 years, it has reduced greatly our reliance on the export of household hazardous waste, especially considering commercial, technical, and sustainability challenges that need to be overcome, particularly for the last few streams that are still being exported out of Ireland. So look, the next step in terms of where we're going and how we manage these streams is putting in the infrastructure, the expertise that are needed to have those circular solutions of the future. The reality that needs to be lived up to by municipalities and operators is these solutions will not be cheaper. They will not be less risk for operators, and they will not be cheaper, but they have longer term benefits that will deliver value in the futures. So
2 minutes or so, Richard. Thanks.
That was quick, John Paul. So look, we all know that there are future barriers to export. Our reliance on export, whether it be around Europe or off in Ireland, they're ever present. They're kind of listed there. The ever stricter EU waste shipping regs, in particular, what we're seeing in Ireland is the reluctance of shippers and exporters to take haz waste, and especially waste streams that may be sourced from household hazardous waste streams, because their awareness of the level of risk and the level of future contamination. So this is just an important slide to look at kind of where we were as a business 10 years ago versus where we are now. And you'll see in 2015 there, the vast majority, everything aside from waste oil, we were exporting to destinations around Europe. Very, very straightforward operation to manage at the time, easy to secure. TFSs, capacity was available, and the technical expertise could be spread out over much larger volumes because they were quite straightforward volume to move with just a simple packing requirement. When we now look at 2025 and the infrastructure that we developed and the treatment capacity that we have developed here, all our paint is now being segregated, depacked, tested, physicochemical treatment for contaminated water-based, solvents are being fuel bended, all packaging is being recycled and then extruded back to product, back to bead for onward sale. And likewise then as we go down along. So in order, like, these better solutions give us more capacity, they reduce our capacity risk in terms of exports, but they give us far more operational risk within our own facility and make us as an operator far more reliant on the technical expertise that we're developing in our business. So quick, just focus on paint. Paint is a massive stream in Ireland in terms of household hazardous waste and how we manage it. It's about 3,000 to 4,500 tons a year. It all comes in as mixed hazardous waste, so it's all delivered into ENVA as within containers where there can be water or water-based paint or solvent-based paint. And look, I suppose, as Clement mentioned earlier about contamination, the most important thing here is like the volume that we accept and segregate and have to sort every day. The range of contamination within household waste is very, very wide and varied. There can be batteries, there can be food, there could be poisons, there could be spent ammunition, or on occasion unspent ammunition, sharps, oils, low flash point liquids, you name it, and that's the level of contamination that you're dealing with within paint waste in particular. It's important to mention in Ireland the social enterprise initiatives that are focusing on reusing paint and getting good quality water-based paints from the household waste stream and reusing those. They're doing a very, very valuable service in terms of raising awareness, providing training, undertaking research, and doing that education job that's needed around public awareness. These initiatives aren't going to be available to take very high volumes in the future. They're just not scalable, but they're doing a great service in raising awareness. Barriers to us for future better solutions for paint in particular is there's currently no end of waste criteria for waste paint, and it's something that if local authorities want to push ahead with and want to develop that solution, it requires input from all stakeholders, because the source material, they need to be better educated, they need to understand sorting, they need to understand contamination to have better input materials so we can develop solutions further. So look, very, very high level in terms of summary. We've went down to the list. Public awareness here is key, and that engagement with all the stakeholders to provide those better solutions going forward. There is an expansion needed of the household hazardous waste collections across Ireland, especially when you look at the data and you see the proximity with which householders are attending household hazardous waste collections day. And in 2025, I think it was 12 in total collection days that were undertaken. So it needs to be expanded along with those public awareness campaigns where social media channels will give the best bang for buck. acceptance procedures, stakeholder engagement. And look, I say operators, industry players, we are ready to invest in infrastructure, but more importantly, we're ready to invest in people and their technical capabilities once we have secure long-term supply, can understand the quality material and the awareness campaigns that will be support our input. And by putting in place collaborative partnerships, we can then secure offtake and have that more sustainable solution in place. You know what I mean? So quick overview, very efficient, the ENVA way, but look, hopefully there's questions afterwards. So that's me.